Joshua. Chapter 22. Then Joshua summoned the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh. He told them, "You have done everything that Moses, the servant of the Lord, told you to do, and you have followed all the commands I gave you. You have never abandoned your brothers all this time, right up to the present day. You have carefully followed what the Lord your God ordered you to do. Now that the Lord your God has given peace to your brothers, as he promised, go back home to your land that Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you on the other side of the Jordan. But make sure you keep the commandments and the law as Moses instructed you. Love the Lord your God, follow all his ways, keep his commandments, stay close to him, and serve him with your whole being." Joshua blessed them, sent them on their way, and they went home. Moses had given to the half-tribe of Manasseh the land of Bashan, and to the other half of the tribe Joshua had given land west of the Jordan. Joshua blessed them and sent them home. He told them, "Take all the wealth you have gained back home, the great herds of livestock, the things made of gold, silver, copper, and iron, the huge quantity of clothes. Share all this plunder with your brothers." So the tribes of Reuben and Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh left the rest of the Israelites at Shiloh in the land of Canaan and went home to their land in Gilead that they had received at the Lord's command through Moses. When they approached the Jordan region, still in the land of Canaan, the tribes of Reuben and Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh built a large and impressive altar beside the Jordan River. The Israelites were told, "Look, the tribes of Reuben and Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh have built an altar in the Jordan region of the land of Canaan, on the side belonging to the Israelites." The Israelites gathered at Shiloh to go to war against them. Before they did so, they sent Phinehas, the son of Eleazar the priest, to the tribes of Reuben and Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh in the land of Gilead. 10 leaders went with him, one from each of the 10 tribes of Israel, and each the head of his family. After they arrived, they told the tribes of Reuben and Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, "This is what all of the Lord's people say. What is this disloyal act you have committed against the God of Israel by building an altar for yourselves? How could you turn away from him now in such rebellion? Wasn't our sin at Peor enough? Even now we're still not clean from the plague that attacked the Lord's people. So why are you turning away from the Lord now? If you rebel against the Lord today, he will be angry with all of us tomorrow. But if you think your land is tainted, then come over to the land of the Lord where the tabernacle of the Lord is located and share some of our land with us. Just don't rebel against the Lord, or against us, by building for yourselves an altar other than the altar of the Lord our God." When Achan, son of Zerah, acted disloyally in taking consecrated things, didn't the whole of Israel suffer punishment? He wasn't the only one who died because of his sin. Then the tribes of Reuben and Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh answered the Israelite leaders, "The Lord is God of gods, the Lord is God of gods, and he knows. May Israel also know. If we're in rebellion against God or being disloyal to him, then kill us right now. If our action of building an altar was to turn away from the Lord, or to use the altar to make burnt offerings or grain offerings or friendship offerings, then may the Lord punish us. We did this because we were worried that in the future your descendants might say to ours, 'What have you got to do with the Lord, the God of Israel?' The Lord put a border, the Jordan River, between us and you, descendants of Reuben and Gad. You don't belong to the Lord. So your descendants might stop our descendants from worshiping the Lord. So we said to ourselves, 'Let's build an altar, not for burnt offerings or for sacrifices, but as a witness between us and you, and for the generations that come after us, that we will come to worship the Lord in his presence with our burnt offerings, sacrifices, and friendship offerings. Then your descendants will not be able to say to ours in the future, 'You don't belong to the Lord.' If they were to do so in the future, our descendants could reply, 'Look at this copy of the Lord's altar which our forefathers made, not for burnt offerings or for sacrifices, but as a witness between us and you.' We would never think to rebel against the Lord or to turn away from him now by building an altar to make burnt offerings or grain offerings or sacrifices. The only altar of the Lord our God is the one stands in front of his tabernacle." When Phinehas and the Israelite leaders heard this from the tribes of Reuben and Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, they were delighted. Phinehas replied to the tribes of Reuben and Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, "Today we know that the Lord is with us, because you have not acted disloyally in doing this. Now you have saved the Israelites from being punished by the Lord." Then Phinehas and the Israelite leaders left the tribes of Reuben and Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh in the land of Gilead, and returned to the land of Canaan to explain the situation to the Israelites. The Israelites were pleased with the report, and God blessed them. They didn't talk about going to war anymore to destroy the land where the tribes of Reuben and Gad were living. The tribes of Reuben and Gad called the altar Witness, because they said, "It is a witness between us that the Lord is also our God." Joshua chapter 23. A long time later, after the Lord had given peace to the Israelites from conflict with their enemies around them, Joshua, by now really old, summoned all the Israelites, the elders, leaders, judges, and officials, and told them, "I'm old, getting on in years. You've seen everything the Lord your God has done to all the nations on your behalf. The Lord your God has been fighting for you. I have allotted the land of the remaining nations for you to own, as well as the nations already conquered, from the Jordan to the Mediterranean Sea. The Lord your God will make them retreat from you. He will drive them out before you, and you will take possession of their land, as the Lord your God promised you. Be sure to observe everything that is written in the book of the law of Moses. Don't stray from it, either to the left or to the right. Don't associate with the nations that are left. Don't mention the names of their gods, and don't swear by them, worship them, or bow down to them. Stay close to the Lord your God, as you have done up to now. The Lord has driven out strong, powerful nations before you. No one has been able to stand up to you to this day. Just one of you can chase away 1,000 enemies, for the Lord your God is fighting for you, as he promised you. Take great care to love the Lord your God. For if you do turn from him, and adopt the ways of the nations that are left, if you intermarry with them, associating with one other, you can be absolutely sure that the Lord your God will definitely not drive out these nations before you. On the contrary, there will be a trap and a snare to you, a whip on your back and thorns in your eyes, until you die out completely from this good land the Lord your God has given you. Now I am about to die, the fate of every living thing on the earth. Deep down you know that not a single one of the Lord's good promises has failed. Everything has come true. Not one has failed. But in the same way that you received all the good things that the Lord your God promised, the Lord will bring on you all the bad things he has threatened until you are completely wiped out from this good land the Lord your God has given you. If you break the agreement the Lord your God made with you, and you go and worship other gods, bowing down before them, then the Lord will become angry with you, and you will be quickly wiped out from the good land he has given you. Joshua chapter 24. Joshua summoned all the tribes of Israel to Shechem. Then he called the elders, leaders, judges, and officials, and they came and stood before the tabernacle of God. Joshua said to all the people, "The Lord, the God of Israel, says this, long, long ago your forefathers, including Terah, the father of Abraham and Nahor, lived beyond the Euphrates River, and they worshipped other gods. I brought your father Abraham from beyond the Euphrates and led him through all the land of Canaan and gave him many descendants. I gave him Isaac. I gave to Isaac Jacob and Esau. I gave to Esau the hill country of Seir to own, but Jacob and his children went down to Egypt. I sent Moses and Aaron, and I brought plagues on the people of Egypt, and I brought you out. Yes, I brought your forefathers out, but when you arrived at the Red Sea the Egyptians were chasing after your forefathers with chariots and horsemen. Your forefathers called out to the Lord for help, and he placed darkness between you and the Egyptians. Then he brought the sea back over them and they drowned. You saw what I did with your own eyes in Egypt. Then you lived for many years in the wilderness. After that I brought you to the land of the Amorites who lived on the other side of the Jordan. They fought against you, but I handed them over to you to defeat, and you took over their land. I destroyed them before you. When Balak, son of Zippor, the king of Moab, wanted to fight against Israel, he sent for Balaam, son of Beor, to come and curse you. But I wasn't willing to listen to Balaam, so instead he blessed you repeatedly and saved you from Balak. You crossed the Jordan and arrived at Jericho where the men of Jericho fought against you. So did the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. But I handed them over to you to defeat. And I sent the hornet before you to drive out the 2 kings of the Amorites. You did not win using your swords or your bows. I gave you a land you didn't work for and towns you didn't build. Now you live in them and eat from vineyards and olive groves you didn't plant. So respect the Lord and worship Him sincerely and faithfully. Get rid of the gods your forefathers worshipped beyond the Euphrates and in Egypt, and worship the Lord. But if you don't want to worship the Lord, choose today who you want to worship. Is it going to be the gods your forefathers worshipped beyond the Euphrates? Or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you're now living? But as for me and my family, we will worship the Lord. The people responded, "We are never going to give up on the Lord and worship other gods. For the Lord our God brought us and our forefathers out of slavery in Egypt. He was the one who did great miracles before our very eyes. He looked after us on the way as we traveled through the lands of many nations. The Lord drove out before us the Amorites and all the other nations who were living in the land. So we will worship the Lord, for He is our God." Joshua told the people, "Remember that the Lord is a holy and jealous God. You won't be able to worship Him, and He won't forgive your rebellion and sins. If you give up on Him and worship foreign gods, He will turn against you and destroy you despite all the good He has done for you." "Don't say that," the people replied. "We will worship the Lord." Then Joshua cautioned the people, "You have made yourselves witnesses against yourselves by saying that you have chosen to worship the Lord." "Yes, we are witnesses," the people replied. "Then get rid of those foreign gods you have and promise to be loyal only to the Lord, the God of Israel," Joshua told them. The people said to Joshua, "We will worship the Lord our God and we will obey Him." So Joshua made a solemn agreement between the people and the Lord that day in Shechem, obligating them to follow all the Lord's laws and instructions. Joshua recorded this in the book of the law of God, and he set up a large stone under the oak tree near the Lord's sanctuary. Joshua said to the people, "Look at this stone. It stands here as a witness against us, for it has heard everything the Lord has told us, and it will be a witness against you if you ever deny what you have promised your God." Then Joshua dismissed the people, sending them to their allotted lands. Later, after all this, Joshua, son of Nun, servant of the Lord, died at the age of 110. They buried him in Timnath-Serah in the hill country of Ephraim, north of Mount Gash, the land he had been allocated. The Israelites continued to worship the Lord throughout Joshua's life, and throughout the lifetimes of the elders who outlived him, those who had seen all that the Lord had done for Israel. The bones of Joseph, which the Israelites had brought with them from Egypt, they buried in Shechem in the piece of ground Jacob had bought from the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem, for 100 pieces of silver. This land was inherited by Joseph's sons. And Eleazar, son of Aaron, died, and they buried him at Gibeah, in the hill country of Ephraim, land which had been given to his son Phinehas.